Welcome to Spiritual Principles of Recovery. I'm glad to see everyone that's here, and I'm glad that everyone is watching tonight. So, at any rate, let's go ahead and start it out like we always do with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. How's everybody doing this evening? Good, man. It's a whole lot warmer in here than it is out there, right? Which is a good thing. Praise God for heat. But at any rate, so tonight I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. Let's talk about, do I stay or do I run, right? How many people have ever been in that situation? Thank you for being honest. So anybody ever remember that song that The Clash did? Do I stay or do I go, right? And then what's the next line? Because if I stay, there'll be trouble, right? But then I always would forget the second part, which is if I run, what? There will be double trouble, correct? And I would always forget that because I tend to run more than I did stay. And so that's what I want to talk about tonight. Do you ever find yourself in that kind of dilemma? You know what I mean? It's really a dilemma. It's like, hey, what do I do? Or you start feeling like things, or you're under it so much that you don't know what to do. I was actually driving by a place by a parking lot the other day, and I remembered how a friend of mine just couldn't. He was under so much financial stress and those kind of things that he finally drank a bottle and blew his brains out in the parking lot. And I thought to myself, wow, what must it be like to be that distraught? And one of the things I kind of started realizing was, is that not a way of just getting away? Not the best way, but it is a way, right? So when I would go through that kind of dilemma or that decision, I would always kind of defer to my old nature, which, like I said, it's that I personally start feeling that I just don't want to be here. And I know that there's a lot of people who feel that way. And matter of fact, I would say that about 99% of us can relate to that at some point or time. You know, the best way not to make a rash decision is to talk about it, right? And so I'll be quite honest with you, and we're very transparent. Lately, I feel like running. Quite frankly, just move, go, bye. And so the best way to put an end to that is say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Now let's talk about it. So that's what I want to do tonight. Let's talk about it. And the first thing I have to realize is that, honestly, it's easy to run. That's always the easy way out. Why is that? Because it feels like the fastest amount of relief. I want relief now. I don't want to wait. I don't want to sit there and think, is there a better way? Should I do something? I'm like, no, let's go. I don't want to stay in this. But at the same time, that's usually the greatest cost, is every time I run. So that's the one thing that has always kind of helped me, right? Is that when I start looking at my past, the thing I have to go back and look at is, what was the cost? See, it's one of those things, if you want to run, but make sure that you know what the cost is up front and be willing to pay for it. How many of us ran away from family? Or how about this? How many of us ran away from family responsibility? See, what did it cost you? The most amazing thing to me is how many guys start rationalizing, well, I left the family because it was the best thing for them. No, dude, it was the quickest way to get relief for you. And then the biggest thing is that they go, and I don't know why my kids don't talk to me on a regular basis. But one of the miracles that happens is we start doing the next right thing. We start doing those things. Our attitude changes. Our life changes. And we start trusting in the process. Next thing you know, we're getting those telephone calls that we didn't think we'd ever get. Or maybe we're getting those actual physical visitations that we never thought we would get. You know, I sit here and I think to myself, how many times have I heard different people come up to me, mostly men, and say, wow, my child came up to me, my teenager, my adult child, whatever it is, came up to me and said, you know what, I forgive you. So that's what I mean. Know the cost. Is it worth it to just book? And a lot of times, it's not. The best way for me to answer that question, what's the cost, is to look at my past. What is my past record? What is it? What happens? Because here's one of the most interesting things. Every time that I have bolted, every time that I have left the situation, every time it's cost me way more than I got in relief. See, the other problem is every time that I run, it causes damage, right? It's like when I moved to Auburn University, it wasn't because I was like, hey, man, go War Eagles. I can't wait to go to Auburn. It was because everything was crazy in Atlanta. I had a lot of issues going on, and I just wanted to get out. And an opportunity came up there, and I jumped on it. I'm like, yeah, maybe I could get some relief. Maybe I can do something different. See, I was going through a lot of pain due to a major breakup, right? And I was also in a financial situation. Daddy wasn't taking care of me. That's the honest truth, right? So at least if I go off to school, then that could change. You see, I saw relief. Well, that within itself was okay. But while I was there, I got the opportunity to meet this young lady, my future ex-wife, and got to meet her and begin to not care about school anymore. Because, see, I really wasn't interested in school that much anymore either. I was starting to sink there, so I needed another place to go. And that's where I found that. And then what I found was I found a new drug, because I was sober then, but I found a new drug and an old behavior. You know what it was called? Codependency. Let me help you out, guys. A little side note, right? If you don't believe codependency is real, then you take a look at your life and see how many times have I sat there and done some of the stupidest things I've ever done for a relationship. Right? Crazy. But the thing was, I needed a fix, and that was a new fix. The problem with that was I wasn't working either. And things got really crazy. And then it got crazy again. We moved back to Atlanta. Things got better for a while, and life got pretty good, and then it wasn't. And then it wasn't. Things like the trust fund ran out. Right? All of a sudden, I had people having expectations of me that I couldn't meet. Life was getting tough. Oh, I know what I need to do. I'll move. The only problem was this time I took a hostage with me, right? Thank God, she divorced me. But what happened was we ended up going down to Mobile, Alabama to start a whole new life. And the problem with that was we started getting involved in things like church and other things like that. And next thing you know, we got a Bible study going on and all this kind of stuff. And it was like all hell broke. And I can literally remember going back across the bay and looking at her. We'd been very hurt. You know, y'all do know sometimes the people that can hurt you the most are church people, right? They're going to get all churched up in here. And the thing is, I remember looking at her going, you know what? This isn't worth it anymore. I'd rather just not live for God and have to go through this. Well, that's the biggest con there ever was. So we did that. Next thing I know, I'm divorced, lost a child. A lot of stuff happened. See, again, every single time we go and just leave, we cause damage. Well, I tell you what, if you want to look at most people's life at just how self-centered they are, start talking to how many times they moved, how many times they changed, how many times they just decided they'd had enough. See, it's kind of scary, some of the things we do. So that particular damage, like I said, resulted in lost child and divorce. But it also I lost something. I began to lose me. Y'all ever lost a part of you? Are you the same person today that you were when you were doing the do? We're not. Did you ever have this moment where you're sitting there thinking to yourself in the middle of all that mess, I'm really a better person than this? I can't believe where I've ended up. I shouldn't have gone through this. I knew better. But yet I still did. But the thing is that running away, not only does it always cause damage, but the other thing it does, it begins to tear into your soul and into your spirit. And that's the worst damage. You see, what we begin to do is we start losing integrity. The story changes. We meet new people. I could be anybody I want to be. Now, there is a time to walk away. But listen to the difference. There's a time to walk away, not run. When is that? When I need to pause. When I'm about to whip somebody bad and I need to just walk away. There is that time. Or maybe there's that time when I walk away just long enough to say, what do you want me to do, Father? Come on, Papa, help me out. What do I need to do? Because I'm angry, I'm mad, I want to punch him right in the mouth. But I know that's not the right thing to do. That's the right time to walk away. My problem is I usually punch him in the mouth, then I ran. You know? And I had other issues going on then too. But there are many reasons that we use to run away. See, it's interesting. A lot of times we're actually on the run and don't even know it. That's kind of crazy, I know, but it's so true, right? So how about the biggest thing I find is that we have a tendency to run away from situations using things like geographical cures, right? Y'all know what a geographical cure is? Yeah. What's the problem with a geographical cure? I keep waking up with that same stupid idiot that's causing all my problems. Me. Right? I got this kid that's moving, man. He's like in New York City now. He doesn't listen to much I say, so I realize a lot of things I say today, maybe he'll remember down the road. And the only thing I can say was, son, I've lived all over the world, literally. And the problem was I kept waking up with the same person. I just let it go like that. So maybe that'll make a difference in his life. Maybe it won't. But some people just shut down. They just shut down. It's like they just become invisible. And the problem with that is they give themselves up. They give their power up. And when they shut down, they also shut down spiritually. But another form is running away from yourself, right? And what is that? What do we do when isn't that called addiction? See, I don't know if anybody else went through this, but I personally believe we kind of all had the same bottom. And here it is. Didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live. I just wanted a moment where I didn't exist. Right? I never sat there and thought to myself, now, I think I'm going to have a really top-notch bourbon here and take a little sip of it and just enjoy it. I was trying to hit the M train and get where I was going, whether that was bourbon, Listerine, or whatever else it may be, right? Or even if it was a powdered alcohol. It didn't matter what it took. I just didn't want to exist. Is that not the biggest form of running away? The problem is every time I'd wake up, it was worse. Never worked for me. But how about this one? People begin to run away from the past. And what is that called? That's called denial. Denial. If I deny my past long enough, maybe it just won't exist. Right? I remember my sponsor would hit me with some stuff and I go, oh no, I never did that. And he'd look at me and he'd say, you know, denial is not a river in Africa. And for the longest time I'd go, huh? Then I realized lies. In other words, you full of bull, bud. How many times are we willing to sit there and say, I've got to no longer deny what happened, but embrace what happened? There's such freedom in that. But how about the biggest one? The biggest one, right? Check this out. Procrastination. Right. So the thing is with procrastination, if I just put it away long enough, maybe it'll just go away. You know what that's called? That's called lying to yourself, right? You trying to con yourself into thinking that if I just push that down the road. Matter of fact, there's another group that does that continuously. It's called Congress. At any rate, that's a whole nother story for another day, and we just saw how many people got affected by that, right? Kick the can, boom, down the road. But procrastination starts causing us things, causing us pain. It ends up causing us resentment because we see other people that went ahead and did something and were successful in it. It also causes us a lot of regret. Man, if I had just done that when I thought about doing it, life would be different today. But a lot of times we don't do that. The other option is to stay and face the giants. Right? The word says be strong and courageous. But we have to face our fears. You see, fear is to take flight. Greatest motivator. Here's the funny thing. When people run, whatever way they choose to run, it's usually based in fear that's not true. It's something they built up in their head. And they've created it, and they've grown it, and they've groomed it, and they've nurtured it to the point that they begin to have anxiety, and it's like, I got to go. So staying is no longer a choice. That's why we got to step over the fear and say, no matter what, I'm going to stay right here. No matter what, man. It's when you stop running. That's when you heal. You'll never heal on the run. I was working with someone in the past few days, and we were getting to some truth. I work with a lot of different people, but we were getting to some real truth of some motivators that caused them to make decisions that they had made, some relationship decisions, other decisions, those kind of things. And it was amazing because the next day I touched base with them, and they said, something changed in me. I began to feel lighter. I feel lighter. And I thought I've heard that before. You see, when we take that off, it no longer, right? I love in my faith what it says. It says that I'm to take the burdens and lay it down at the cross, man. And sometimes I'm stupid enough to go back and pick it up. But I get the choice to leave it there. How many times have we begun to feel lighter? How many times did we start feeling hope in a situation? See, it's funny. It's like I no longer fear finding out the truth. The truth is I fear not finding out the truth. I want to make sure that I have the ability to grow. Because you see, when we're willing to stay and stand, what are we really willing to do? What we're saying is, okay, God, I'm truly going to understand how to let go and let God handle this situation. It's funny. It's a nice little bumper sticker. It's not for me today. It's a way of life. I hope it is for you too. Trust. Isn't that what it always comes down to? But now when we're willing to do that, when we're willing to stand and face the truth and say, okay, God, I trust you, then guess what? What step are we in? Third step. You see, we get to practice a true third step. And here it is. What? Made a decision to what? Turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. You can't do that if you're always on the run. I never want to get ahead of God. Just don't want to be there. Why would I not want to be in his will? Why would I not want to be in a place where I can hear what he's saying to me? See, the big book says that, of Alcoholics Anonymous, says what? That we suffer from a spiritual malady. And what's that? It means we spiritually screwed up. That's basically what it is, right? And so what we begin to have to say is How can I turn my will and my life over to the care of God if I'm not willing to allow him to stand here and let him do the work, right? I love that verse. It says what? The truth will what? It says to know the truth. Truth is the truth. It just depends on whether we want to find out or not. But to know the truth will what? Set you free. Really? Now here's the funny thing. Even God's not saying I'll set you free. It's saying I'll provide you the truth, which means you have the ability to receive it and walk away. Oh, wow. I don't have to run anymore. No, not at all. Not at all. That's why so many of us tend to run from God. I don't know. I like these people who are like, oh, I'm very spiritual. That's the scariest thing to me to hear. Because you know what that means? I'm not real sure what I believe, but whatever I believe today will work for me. Will it? Doesn't for me. It didn't. I tried that one. It didn't really work. But you see, the thing is, if I'm suffering from a spiritual malady, if I'm back there doing the do, and I feel so much shame and remorse and all those things, I don't want God in my life. Why do you think so many people believe that they can go, hey, I accept you, here we are, I'm going to keep partying on? It don't work that way. There has to be a change. So the most important thing to me today is not my sobriety. Right? What are we always told? Whatever you put in front of your sobriety, you'll lose it, right? That ain't 100% true, because here's my thing. What I found out was the most important thing in my life today is my relationship with God. Now, here it goes. It ain't hard. If I want to run away from God more than I ever have before, all I got to do is pick up. Because that will cut the relationship off immediately. From God? No, from me. Because you see, I will begin to feel so much shame and so much anger at myself and so much just hopelessness that I don't want to have a relationship with God. I'm too embarrassed. God comes to the garden, right? And he says, where are y'all? We in the bushes. Why are you in the bushes? Because we naked. Who told you we're naked? Oh, the evil one. Oh, okay. It's always the enemy that wants to throw your past issues in your life. All God wants to do is tell you how much he loves you, and he wants you to change, and he's going to be behind you no matter whatever you do. So here's the thing. Let's look at an example of God having to if someone having to repeat the process again. You do know, right, that if we don't get it, if we run away, we get to go repeat the process again, right? It never goes away. It just changes. It's kind of like those relationships, right? That whole codependency thing, different name, right? Different address, same person in the end. Man, it's that same way with this. Different path, different road, same mountain, right? Get to go around it one more again. But let's look at that particular example of someone that didn't trust God and ended up having to repeat the process again. Acts 7, 25 and 30. Moses assumed his fellow Israelites would realize that God had sent him to rescue them, but they didn't. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. Nobody really realizes that Moses is even an Israelite to begin with, right? Because he lives where? In the palace with who? Pharaoh, right? Not the songwriter, but Pharaoh. And so here he is. He's in that whole thing, and he goes in, and he's like, hey, man, you need to help each other, right? Let's all just get together and coexist. And so the Israelites are looking because they're mad, man. They're like in this fight, right? And check this out. I love this. The next day, he visited them again and saw two men of Israel fighting. Dude, chill. He tried to be a peacemaker. Men, he said, you're brothers. Why are you fighting each other? Check this out. But the man in the wrong, it's always the man in the wrong, pushes you aside, pushes Moses aside and says, who made you a ruler and judge over us? He asked, are you going to kill me? Ooh, as you, killed the Egyptian yesterday. Oh, snap. You talking about that secret sin that nobody knew about, somebody saw. When Moses heard that, he fled the country and lived as a foreigner in the land of Midian. There his 2 sons were born. Hang on. He did what? Let me help you out with that one. It says that he left, right? And he didn't just leave. He hauled on out of there, right? It's like exit stage left, see you later, not going to say anything else, bye. But here's the thing. He goes and lives as a foreigner, doesn't even live as himself. Doesn't even take ownership in who he really is. He changes the story. But then it says a couple of years later, 40 years later in the desert near Mount Sinai, an angel appeared to Moses in a flame of a burning bush. That all part is cool, but here's the deal. 40 years later. You see, when we take off and run and don't take care of the situation, it could take us decades to get back to what God's plan is for us. So we know about the burning bush. He goes to the burning bush, and what does he do? What does God say there? He says, you're going to lead my people. You're going to help set them free. Now, here's the funny thing. He had the opportunity to set those 2 guys free, more or less, but instead he puts it off. And where's he got to go back to? Egypt. He's got to go back to the place that he ran from. Oh, man, snap. He had to go back to make it right. Oh, okay. See, running from God can be in many ways different from running from self. And here's what I mean by that. What's one way we run from God? Unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is an absolute way, because what does God himself say? He says, hey, if you can't forgive your brother, I can't forgive you. And how can I forgive you if you don't forgive your brother? So that tells me right up front that if I'm in unforgiveness, then I'm in separation from God. How about not surrendering? God says, lay that down. Give me everything. Give it all to me. And you go, man, I'm going to turn over 3/4 of my will and 2/3 of my life to your care. But I'm going to hang on that one little thing, because I'm not really willing to let that go. That's another way we run from God. Or this one's crazy, turning your back on his plan that he's put forth for your life. I don't care if you want me to go to the mission field. That's probably the number one fear with most believers, is that, oh my God, he's going to send me to the mission field. Well, did it ever occur to you that one of the greatest mission fields that I get to work with is recovery? Man, you're doing 12 steps to do what? To have a spiritual awakening. Whoa, man, sounds like a mission field to me. But people begin to turn their life. Oh, I don't want to work here anymore. You don't get it, God. You don't understand, Papa. I'm the only one that believes in you in this group. And he sits there and goes, well, there's an open field right there. You may be the only one that brings light into that situation, but you're wanting to run. Because here's the thing. Anytime we stay where God wants us to stay, you will be blessed. But not only do we not follow through with his plan, how many times we just flat out gone against his will. And I think about that, and the character that I think about a lot of times, Jonah. I thought about him the other day, but Jonah, he's a trip, right? He's like, hey, God says, I want you to go to Nineveh. I'm happy to go, but I swear I thought you said Nineveh. God says, yeah, I do. Yeah, no. Anywhere but Nineveh. So what does he do? I'll go jump on the next boat going the exact opposite way. And he does. And you remember how I said when we do things, it always causes trouble in other people's life? Man, while he's on that ship, what happens? Dude, the biggest storm they'd ever seen starts coming over. I mean, they pass seasick, man. They like pass, they're at the point they just want to die almost at this point, right? They're getting tossed and everywhere, to and fro and everywhere else. And finally, Jonah goes to him and says, hey, look, man, the reason this is happening to you is because I was supposed to go the other way and I didn't. And just throw me overboard. And here's the crazy thing. They go, oh, no. See, you can always find some codependent in your life somewhere, right? Oh, no, we may be sick. We may be almost dead. We haven't eaten for a week. But no, we'll honor you because, right? Finally, after they got, a few more days without food and stuff, he's like, I'm telling you, throw me overboard. Now, here's the funny thing. Jonah never jumped overboard. I want you to make me do something, right? Instead of going, see ya. So he gets thrown overboard, and then what happens? You see, anytime we start going against God's will, he's got a plan. And this plan just was a big fish. That was his plan, right? And so he got to go. He didn't have to have the desert experience that Moses had, right? The 40 years, he got however much time. I would definitely say being in the stomach of a fish would definitely be a desert experience, wouldn't you? Just with a whole lot of water and whatever else. And so there he is. And finally, I love this, because how many of us done this? I can ride this fish out until he gets miserable. Then he's like, look, God, I will honor you and respect you. I swear on everything that was ever holy, I will do everything I can, right? And then finally what happens? He gets spit out on the shore. And he's like, man, woo, hallelujah. And the first thing God says is what? Go to Nineveh. See, God don't change his mind. We over there trying to con God. That's the funniest one, right? It's like, I'm going to go sneak off and go on this boat and get away. I'm going to run away and God won't be able to find me. How dumb is that? So God still had that plan. He gave him an opportunity. Man, it was an opportunity to go around that mountain one more time, to go do the right thing. See, Papa God has a plan for us, and we have to start realizing that the more I run, the longer it takes to get there. And I can tell you this, the older I get, the more regret that I have that I didn't go ahead and just surrender and say, hey, we are. But we have to trust Papa God no matter what, man. No matter what. You see, you will not stay unless you trust God. Because here's the problem. If you don't trust God, you don't know anything else to do than run. That's your only answer. But we got to be willing to go through the process. I'll stand here. I'll stay here. I'll look at the truth no matter what. And when that happens, and when we're willing to stop running, then we begin to find out exactly who our loving God is himself. All of a sudden, he meets us in a way that we've never been met before. There's a change in our lives that we never even imagined. Man, I'm not going to go through it tonight, but I promise you, if you want to hear the deepest, darkest thing on my fifth step, come talk to me. I'm more than happy to tell you, because it has no hold on me today. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happened to me, who abused me, whatever. Doesn't matter. What matters is that God has a plan for me that exceeds anything that we can even begin to understand. Have you ever looked around and the first question you ask yourself seriously is, how did I get here? I don't deserve this. What happened? Instead of doing the do, and it's like, what happened? Here I am again. I'm stuck. I just got to go. See, my whole thing is if you're in a position tonight that you want to begin to see a change in your life, come talk to me, seriously. I'll show you how. Things begin to change that quick when we're willing to lay it down. When we're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to be in the no matter what club. Doesn't matter how bad it gets, I'm going to trust you no matter what. And that's exactly what God's got for us. So I appreciate you guys listening. And I hope that it makes a difference in your life. And like I say, come see me if you need to. But in all honesty, stay. Don't run. And watch your life begin to bloom. Watch your whole attitude towards everything begin to change. And you'll start experiencing being happy, joyous, and free. Thanks. So who do we give it all to? Who's the one that we're willing to stay for? Our Father, who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses as we begin to forgive those who trespassed against us. Lead us away from temptation. Deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.